Science education research studies are complicated. They've got a lot of pieces to them, and this graphic organizer is going to help us sort of zoom in on what I think are the most important pieces for us. The first thing is, of course, the research questions. We know that science and science education research, it's all about trying to answer some questions, trying to investigate something, collect data that's going to answer a question. So what is that big question? I put that in bold here because that's the first and most important thing to figure out is what are they trying to do in this paper? Then we get into a bunch of the details. We want to know who are they looking at? Who are the participants and what are the education levels of them? Are we talking about kindergartners or grad students or something else? And how do they get those people to participate in the study? Is this a random study or are they going to their friends and asking them questions? We can end up with biases based upon how we actually get the people into our study. And then also, when we're thinking about using these results to apply them to some other situation, we can't take what we learned with kindergartners and apply it to grad students. And this also gets at what we call the validity of the study. Let's say our research question is, how do scientists think? But we only interview kindergartners. We're not actually looking at perhaps what we really intended to look at of scientists. We're only looking at little scientists. The next important thing is just how much data do they have? N is a shorthand for the number of participants there are, and it's so important that we've got its own row. The next two rows, treatment and control, or basis for comparison, are really thinking about what is it that we're doing in this study that we're actually looking at. Thinking of it in terms of like a medical trial where you're trying out a drug treatment and seeing what its effect is. So we want to know what is it that's being tried out on this study of participants. And of course, in order to figure out whether or not it's working, you need to have some sort of a basis for comparison, some control. Sometimes that's a separate control group. Other times you're looking at an independent variable, like how much of the drug do you apply or how much of a teaching intervention is there. And that is going to be described here in this basis for comparison row. And you're also thinking about the steps that they do to make sure that they're being as consistent as possible, that their groups are as equivalent as possible, and what unintended differences might there be that they don't talk about or that they do mention as limitations. And how do they confirm that they're really comparing apples to apples, that the control group is really equivalent to the treatment group? The next thing is, what are they measuring? What are they observing in the study, and what sort of tools are they using? Are they using sort of tests? Are they making observations using certain protocols? And then once they have those things, how do they turn those into a kind of a number? You get a test result, but which number is it that you're looking at? Are you looking at the overall score? Are they looking at how much people have improved? Those sort of quantifiable aspects of things. The results here, we just want to know, did the treatment make a difference? What did they find? Tell us all right there in that thing. And you can see I've got a big space for that because I want you to tell me a whole lot about that. The statistics we're thinking really about, we think we found something, but how are we sure that this is really a robust finding? We use statistics, how big the difference is. If it's statistically significant, it helps us figure out if we can trust it. And then our bottom line, I put that in bold here because, of course, this is the end result. We want to answer our research question. Below that in your template, I've got a spot for you to draw a little flow chart here illustrating the sequence of events in the study. And this is not the sort of a flow chart of the paper. It's about what actually they did as part of this treatment. This would go with the treatment and control, and often there are two parallel strands here where you see the treatment group on one side and the control group on the other side, and they're going to have a lot of things in common that they had as part of their experience, and there's going to be some differences, and you'll want to highlight those differences. And then lastly, there's a spot for you to paste in a screenshot or two of the key findings, the most important figures or tables. In the end, you got to get a concise summary of the most important things about this paper that we'll be able to discuss in class.